أو بالانهزام رغبا.
It created panic. It was believed to be the first time that a group like this has carried out an assassination with a drone. So Warren and I started looking at this new weapon, the armed drone. The conflict in Yemen has been going on since 2015, when you had this small group called the Houthis that launched a rebellion essentially against the government. And they've been surprisingly successful. This was a group that was sort of known as a ragtag militia at best when it started, and now they've evolved into this very concerning force. The Houthis control a large section of the country, and what started for many as kind of a very small Middle Eastern war has now evolved into what the US and the Trump administration view as effectively a proxy war that pits Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and the US and their allies against this Houthi force, which is supported in some ways by Iran.
The Houthis started by using fairly simple ballistic missiles, which was the primary thing in their arsenal in the early years of the war. The Saudi-led coalition, which has done a fairly good job of stopping the smuggling of these parts for the missiles and of shooting them down through missile defenses, but it's a lot harder to stop drones. We've been told at the Wall Street Journal that the Houthis began with fairly rudimentary propeller-driven drones that can do damage, but first they were primarily used for surveillance and reconnaissance, not for attack. As time went on, the Houthis became more proficient and were able to actually conduct attacks, armed attacks using drones.
The first big attack that we have confirmed did in fact happen was July 18th, when the Houthis attacked Aramco oil refinery near Riyadh.
It did some damage, but more important than the damage, I think, is the message it sends that the Houthis can hold what's most valuable to Saudi Arabia at risk.
Soon after the Aramco attack on July 26th of 2018, the Houthis claimed that they had attacked Abu Dhabi airport, hundreds of miles from Yemen. And it did damage a truck and it disrupted flights for a short period of time.
Of course, the Houthis claimed the attack, and there were celebrations in the street. The government of the Emirates denied that there had been a successful drone attack, and we were told by current and former officials that the US sort of went along with the story. The reason for the cover story was there was concern that had it gotten publicly known there was a successful attack, even though the damage was somewhat marginal, it could have had widespread economic ramifications for UAE and other countries in the Gulf region. We have again been able to determine through our reporting at the Wall Street Journal several sources that despite the denials at the time, this attack did indeed happen. On January 10th, 2019, the Houthis conducted what we're told is the first successful assassination of a foreign government official using a drone. The Houthis used an armed drone to attack a Yemeni military outpost, killing half a dozen military officials, including the Deputy Army Chief of Staff.
The question is, how have they been able to go from a very small ragtag militia with AK-47s to being able to carry out drone strikes that fly hundreds of miles and are able to disrupt oil refineries and air traffic and potentially commercial shipping in the region?
They are probably the most proficient group around the world outside of governments in using drones.
Drones are cheap, they're commercially available.
Many of these parts you and I could order on the internet today, and then you just marry that with an explosive, and that sort of shows you, I think, the power of the proliferation of drone technology and what it might portend for the future.